Welcome to the Fun with Friends podcast, hosted by me, Allie, featuring my friends.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Fun with Friends podcast, quarantine episode 2. I'm your host, Allie. I hope everyone is hanging in there, staying safe and healthy, and that you are all finding ways to keep yourselves entertained. Joining me today is Carly from Love, Carly Stoj.
Hello, Allie. Excited to
Hi.
be here with you.
So I'm very excited to kind of share my experience and have Carly share more information about her virtual classes and what some of the benefits are of taking those classes. So thanks again for joining me.
Absolutely.
You're actually the first guest that I've had on the podcast that I have not worked with in the past. So it's exciting to have a little bit of a change of guests on the podcast because I've literally worked with everyone that has been on here. So it's nice to bring in some new people and kind of branch out a little bit with our podcast. We did get virtually introduced, though, by someone that I have worked with in the past, who is your sister. She actually shared information about one of your upcoming classes with our friend group. And I was super pumped when I saw that, especially that it was a yoga bar class, because I really enjoy yoga, and bar is something that I've had on my list of things to try. So when she shared that with our group, I was instantly in and like super excited about it. And that's kind of how we were introduced. I thought it would be exciting to do a podcast episode on it to kind of share that information with people on how they can do a virtual class, especially now that everyone is stuck from home. Very excited to have not only taken your class, but that you can be here today to
Yes.
about it. So before we jump into learning more about Carly and the classes that she teaches, we're going to take a quick little break.
If you're like me and you're just getting started with podcasting, it can be scary and overwhelming. That's why Anchor is such a great choice. It's one of the easiest ways to make a podcast, and best of all, it's free. It also has great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Another great feature of Anchor is that they'll distribute your podcast for you. Your listeners will be able to access your podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many others. You can also make money from your podcast using Anchor, and that's with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place, and it's easy to use. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
So Carly, thank you again for joining me today. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? So who you are and where you're from.
For sure. Well, I want to thank you, Allie, for having me. I was so excited when you reached out. And I also want to shout out to my sister, Kate, your colleague. She's such a supportive sister, and I appreciate her so much. And just all your friends that were on the class the other day. I knew some of them, and then getting to know some more people, so it's really fun. But my name's Carly Stoj. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I teach yoga, bar, meditation, and I'm an avid traveler, which is hard because quarantine has now trapped me, but I travel. I love to eat out. I'm a major foodie, and then supporter of the arts. I think those are a lot of my passions right there.
Some fun facts. So I did not know that you were a traveler. That's kind of perfect because we talk a lot about traveling on the podcast. So one question before we jump into some yoga stuff, what has been the best trip that you've been on so far, or the one that you've enjoyed the most?
My ultimate so far has been sailing in Croatia.
Oh my gosh.
In the Adriatic. Yeah, it was incredible, and I cannot wait to go back someday, hopefully sooner than later, but for sure, Croatia sailing Adriatic. I lived on a boat for a week with a bunch of my friends. So
oh my gosh.
It was
that
really epic.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And just the water, the food, the people, everything. It's like never ending goodness.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. I had to add Bali to the list of places I wanted to visit because one of my friends went on a solo trip there, and it just sounded like the most beautiful place ever in the world. But I bet sailing in Croatia is probably
Bali is for sure after quarantine, like the top place I want to go to, especially with yoga and things like that. So
oh yeah.
once travel bans are lifted, I hope I will get to Bali. And I'm also curious to see if I will leave once I get there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it seems like a place that you don't want to leave once you get to, which, so we'll see. But Bali is so high for me. So hopefully I can make that happen after this.
Yeah, I never really had it on my list. And then listening to her go, I was like, oh my gosh, like Bali sounds like heaven. So maybe one day. That's so cool. Yeah, I'd love to maybe talk to you sometime at a later time about some of your travels, because we do cover a lot of traveling stuff on the podcast. So it'd be awesome to hear a little bit more about where you've been and what some of your fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm hoping to combine the yoga, bar, and travel eventually as a total thing, bringing people to places and doing yoga and bar. So you never know.
Yeah, I had a friend that she was an archaeologist, but she also got certified as a yoga instructor and also like a masseuse. And she did something very similar. Like she moved to, I don't know exactly where, but she moved to India and they opened up like a vegan restaurant, and then they taught yoga like in the backspace of the restaurant. So they had like two parts of the building, and one side was vegan food and then the other side was the yoga practice. And I think she did that for a couple of years before she moved back to the States, but it always sounded like something very kind of fun and adventurous to do.
For sure. That sounds amazing.
So how long have you been teaching yoga and bar? And you said you do a couple other types of practices as well, right? Yoga, bar, and meditation. And
yeah, and I teach a few different modalities of yoga. So I've been teaching yoga for almost 2 years. I got certified in Northern California. Really beautiful place I went to for a month and got certified there. And then I have also traveled to Costa Rica, and that's where I got certified in my bar practice. And then as most recent, I've been doing a Kundalini yoga teacher training in Los Angeles. So it's just different yoga. Some of it's like more gentle stretching. The Kundalini has more breath work. You're working your energy through your chakras. There's more meditation. You get a little bit more of that like elevated, almost, it's a little bit like you can get a yoga high from Kundalini. It's a little funky. And then with the yoga and the bar fusion I do, it's more of like a gentle stretch, getting into your body, more relaxation around the bar practice.
Yeah, I'd done yoga before. Like I've taken a couple of yoga classes, and then I got hardcore into yoga when I lived in Washington State for a while. And really, I didn't take classes. I kind of just taught my, did yoga on my own, I guess. But
self-study.
Yeah, and got really into it and really love it because I'm terrible at stretching. So yoga was really great for me to kind of like calm down and stretch it out and just kind of really relax. But yeah, I'd never taken bar before. And like I said, that was something I had on my list. So I was really excited about that. And then when I found out that you also did Kundalini, I've never tried that, but it sounds like something that I need.
For sure.
Very relaxing and kind of calming. So I'm going to definitely try out some of those classes, because when I saw that you did that, I was like, oh, that sounds wonderful. To just sit and kind of like reset yourself sounds exactly what I need.
Yeah, Kundalini gets really interesting. Every time you do it, I find that I have a different experience. With Kundalini, you do Kriyas, which are like a set of exercises you do in a specific order to get a desired outcome. But even last week, I taught a Kriya and I was doing it with the group and it was really nice. And then the next day, I did it again with somebody else teaching me the same Kriya. And I was like, after 2 poses, I just started crying, but in the most beautiful way. Like I had this opening happening and like in the back of my heart, which sounds all a little woohoo and everything. But It's a really beautiful practice. And like some days you're like, I don't know if this is working. And then all of a sudden the next day you're literally like crying tears of joy from it. But
Yeah.
it's definitely been a beautiful practice for me in my life, really healing.
Yeah,
practice.
that sounds really nice. Yeah, so I definitely want to try it just to see, to experience it and see if it's something I enjoy. So you'll probably be seeing me in one of your classes soon.
I love it. I'm excited.
So what got you into teaching yoga? Was it something that you kind of always had been interested in, or, did you just kind of have like an aha moment and knew that was something that you really wanted to do?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I was always sort of like a math and science person, but also into the arts and creative. My aunt lives in New Mexico, and I think she took me to my first yoga class when I was in high school in like the early 2000s. And I think, it was like New Mexico, Southwest. I feel like they had a few, I think they were just a little ahead on the new age type of things. So I traveled there to visit her from Wisconsin. It was like all these yoga classes and things like that. So she really introduced me to that whole world. And I was lucky enough to travel with her for a bunch of years through New Mexico, Arizona, and California. And she really introduced me to both yoga and Pilates. And I've been in love with it ever since. I think it's been like 17 years I've been practicing yoga.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I always knew I wanted to teach yoga and Pilates. Barre is sort of like, I don't teach Pilates yet, but my Barre seems along the lines of Pilates-ish philosophies. It just took me a lot of years to finally let myself go there. I've like always been formal education and more like formal route of everything, where I was like, okay, now or never, like just start your passion project. And I'm already like 3 trainings in, and like really I'm using this quarantine time to just dive into it even more and see where it all goes. But it's been really, really beautiful.
And it's so awesome that you've taken those steps to really find that thing that you're passionate about and to actually like go forward with it and kind of dive in, because that's a very scary thing to do. It's something I struggle with kind of right now is, do you kind of stay in this corporate job or do you actually like kind of let your creativity go and kind of see where that's going to take you? So it's a pretty big kind of leap of faith to maybe take the route that's a little less secure, I guess, but definitely more fulfilling, most likely.
Yeah, absolutely. There's days where I'm like, what am I doing? And then other days where I'm like, I'm so excited and I'm so happy. And it also just like, it's uncertain, but you just have to allow yourself to like think big about where things can go, but then stay in the moment. And it's like, I am starting small, per se, but also you just never know where things will go. It's just like one foot in front of the other, but it can be hard because everything's uncertain. And especially when your paychecks are uncertain, you sort of have to adjust your lifestyle to follow that path for sure.
Yeah. So again, we kind of mentioned, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but there are different types of yoga, different practices. What would you say are the major differences between yoga and Barre, and then kind of what you do? Because you do the class I took was a yoga Barre fusion class. So how does that differ from like a traditional yoga or a traditional Barre class?
I don't know if I'm just too ADD or what, but I like the idea that it's like mini sessions. So you can never get too bored. But I just found that the Barre actually comes with some props. And since online, I don't have the props. So I'm doing a shorter version of Barre that it's just you, your body, your mat. The yoga, I just find it's a really beautiful, nice warm up to stretch into your body. Doing the Barre workout is like hard, intense, but you don't need weights. You don't need anything. If I do a full Barre class, you end up needing like 9-inch ball. You need 2-pound weights. You need some resistance bands to have the longer class. So I just improvised and was like, I'll do a shorter Barre class, start with yoga, finish with yoga, and relax. And then also I find that I try to make it where it's doable. It's hard, but you're not going to be killing yourself for like a full hour. It's just going to have hard segments with also some relief and some breaks and some stretching. So I just try to follow like what feels good to me, and then thinking hopefully it'll feel good for other people and they'll like that. And I think the Barre and yoga I try to do is more on the gentler side per se. The Barre is small movements that get intense when you're in that burn zone. But the thing I personally like about it is there's no choreography to it, because for me it's like I like stationary small movements versus versus trying to like 1, 2, 3, 4 step back and forth, and then I end up falling over myself and like it doesn't work. So I just teach, you know, more of how my brain works. Hopefully that translates and is good for everyone else that tunes in.
I definitely liked the flow of it. Like I liked opening up with kind of some nice easy stretching, and like again, I really enjoy yoga, so I loved kind of the opening and the closing because it's what I know, and I really enjoyed it, and it made me feel really relaxed. And then the bar section absolutely kicked my ass. Like I'm super out of shape, and there's nothing better than to be reminded of that during a workout class of any kind. So the bar section definitely was like a challenge for me, but again, I'm very out of shape. But it was challenging in in a good way. Like I felt like I was getting a really good workout and I was working all of my muscles. So it was nice because it's almost like, you know, you have your like slow jog warm up, and then you have kind of like your sprint, and then your slow cool down after the fact. So the flow I really liked the flow of the class, and closing with my favorite pose of all, which is corpse pose, you know, just on the floor.
So good.
It's the best. My favorite pose. What are like the top 2 things that you would say you enjoy the most about teaching yoga?
My intention is just to connect and uplift people, like connect with people and uplift people as much as I can. I think the connection I find within people, and then it also is like raising my own spirits while I'm doing it. And I think something that is like giving me energy while I'm doing something for somebody else is so crucial, because I've done so many jobs where, you know, you finish something and your energy is just drained and sucked out of you. And then it's like, then you get your paycheck and you're like, okay, I'll show up again. But with yoga, it's like, I feel like I get as much out of hopefully what my students get out of it. I feel so like happy, and just, I feel a lot of gratitude from the practice and being able to teach. And I feel like the practice has given me so much. I just want to be able to facilitate giving back to others, hopefully feeling the same type of upliftment and calm and peace. I've had a lot of issues, mental health issues, depression, anxiety, things like that. And moving my body has tremendously helped that. And it's like nothing's ever perfect. Nothing ever becomes, you know, easy, but especially through quarantine, having this practice and moving my body has for sure helped my, you know, headspace and my positive attitude, and just even feeling clear and like able to like face every day. It's much better when your head feels clear and your energy is lifted, versus like if you don't move that energy, you're just groggy, and it can be hard. But, I don't know if that were 2 things. That might have been 10.
Yeah. It was wonderful. I can definitely see that, because it's a way to kind of give back to people and to help them, and it's also something that you're very passionate about. I can definitely, like, that resonates with me a lot, because it's finding something that you really enjoy and that you're really passionate about and that you really believe in, and then sharing that with others, hoping that it will help them as well. Like that's a great thing to be able to do, and to know that you are helping people in whatever like small way it might be.
Totally.
I definitely left the class feeling pretty like pumped up. So it was great. Like I also have mental health problems and depression and really bad anxiety. Like you know, I'm one of those people who when nighttime hits, I can't shut my brain off. So I like am awake all the time. And so I've definitely tried a lot of yoga and meditation and stuff like that at night to kind of try to shut my mind off and like chill a little bit. And I think that's why I like corpse pose so much, because it's a way for me to like focus more on like calming my body down.
Yeah. And really just getting out of your thinking mind and getting into your body. Sensing and feeling your body is one of the best ways to help yourself get out of that thinking mind. Because that's where I think a lot of, you know, I think we store emotions in our body, and I think that's linked to the anxiety and the depression, but just really it's like our minds just, you know, going amok, and it's like we have to bring that center back and take back the control and uplift through moving your energy and getting out of that thinking mind and get into your body.
Yeah, yoga is amazing. I really need to do it more often because definitely not great about it. But I think that was one of the other reasons why I was so excited about a virtual class, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I can take this from home. Like I don't have to worry about going out and like commute times, or like, you know, when I was working, I was always worried about like, okay, I've got an hour long train ride and then I got to change and then I have to be to like the yoga studio like 10 minutes after I get home. Do I have time for a snack? You know, like the time.
It's like another job almost.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a whole nother thing.
But having it be online is really appealing because it's so accessible and like easy. And I was like, I'm 100% more likely to do a virtual yoga class than I am to actually go somewhere. So now that we have got to know Carly a little bit better, we are going to discuss her virtual classes, including the one that I recently took. And we had a pretty good group of people in there, some of whom you've heard on the podcast before. We had Julie, who I believe is still currently the reigning champ of podcast guest appearances. And then we also had Katie, who has been on a lot of episodes as well. And we had quite a few other folks from the friend group, including one of my friends from California. She was there as well. So it was a pretty good mix of people in the virtual class that we attended. But before we jump into the virtual class, we are going to take a little break.
In a world of utter randomness, one podcast stood out from the bunch, and it was The Amazing World of Talking Shiz. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there. It's just mainly randomness.
And focus is
definitely
not being focused on at all.
No. Our podcast is definitely no theme at all. It's literally random and talk about literally everything and throwing in random jokes at any given time.
Yeah. We're on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. So go ahead, tune in. New episodes weekly.
And we're international.
Very,
yes. Very well. So tune in. Follow us on Twitter. See you there.
All right, we are back with Carly from Love Carly Stoj, and we are talking about her virtual yoga and barre classes. Have you always kind of done virtual classes, or did you kind of do a mix of in-person and virtual classes before the pandemic?
So the pandemic brought on my first ever virtual classes, and I was nervous about it. Before the pandemic, I was doing a lot of pop-ups, which were awesome. In Milwaukee, I feel like people really love a social aspect to yoga and working out. So I was doing pop-ups at a hotel and then teaching monthly classes at a few different places, a brewery and a bar. And I'm like, that's Wisconsin for you. We just got to like mix everything up here, and that gets people out, you know? You got to maybe have a beer after. Yeah. And I was just working on getting that ball rolling, per se, teaching in person. And then with the pandemic happening, I just pushed myself. Within the first week, one of my best friends that's in Denver was like, I want to take your yoga class. And you know, mentally, I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know Zoom. I don't know the technology. And, you know, all those reasons in your mind that it creates of why I can't do it. And I'm trying to be in that space of like, just say yes anyway. And, you know, the fear or anxiety might come up. And I taught 2 people the first week of quarantine in Denver, and they both were so enthusiastic and positive. And then I felt so uplifted and just really full after, like really good energy. So then I just started setting up weekly events via Zoom, and then I teach for what's called Milwaukee Yoga Social, MKE Yoga Social. And they shortly, like 2 weeks probably into quarantine, were like, okay, this might not end as soon as we'd like. So our whole group of yoga social teachers is online, and we have a schedule all set up, and then I just independently plan my own classes. So it's been like a weird blessing in disguise. And the technology, I feel like every time I'm like getting a little bit better with my sound and visuals and things like that. It's always a work in progress, but I think better to just get out there and do it than try to be perfect. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm surprised at the connection I feel still in the virtual class. It's different than in person, but it still works. And I think I still feel like I'm able to connect with people in a really nice way. And it's working better than I anticipated it working. It's nice.
That was just one of the things that I not worried about, but I was wondering how it would go virtually. Because the other yoga classes I've taken, it's a lot of explaining and showing. And I was like, oh, how is this going to work through Zoom? Like, I don't know. But the way you explained everything, it was very easy to follow along. I spoke with a couple of people that also attended, and they kind of said the same thing. Like, you almost didn't have to look at the screen because the way you explained the moves, we knew what we were supposed to be doing just by the way that you were explaining it. So that was really nice. It turned out very well. Like, I was like, I don't know, like, how am I going to watch the screen and move my body at the same time? But again, the way you explained everything, it was like, oh, okay, I put my foot here and then we do this. And so
that's great.
Yeah.
I think I've improved in the past few weeks on being able to articulate everything through verbal cues. And I've had some really amazing teachers in my past where I could, when you get the correct verbal cue and you really just feel it in your body and you're like affirming yes as they're verbally cueing you. So I just try to think about in my past all those like wonderful teachers I've had, and then feel like I've just been doing my best to do that, because I think especially on the virtual, it can even be hard to see the picture. So I'm just really trying to use my voice to cue people. And I feel like I still slip up on my words and things like that, but it's just like you got to keep moving on and try to tell people what to do the best you can.
Well, it's even with the way you explain breathing, like letting your belly go and then like pulling it up towards your spine. I'm like, okay, that's probably one of the better ways I've heard that explained. And I've taken yoga classes before, but apparently it took a Zoom class for it to like fully click in how you're supposed to breathe.
Very passionate about the breath. And I had my own breath work aha class. It was in Tucson probably like 15 years ago. And I was, I think, breathing opposite and breathing from my upper chest and like inhaling and like everything was coming out and exhaling, I don't even know what I was doing. And I had this amazing breath work class, and just really understanding the proper flow of your breath is just a key to it. Obviously helps you in your yoga practice, but then when you take proper breathing into your day-to-day life, it can make a really profound impact on just your energy levels through the day, your posture, and really the oxygen that's coming in is like going to your brain, going to your blood. It all works together for positive benefits when you're doing things correctly.
Yeah, so that was kind of like an eye-opening moment for me. It seems like something so simple, but I was like, holy, what? I've been doing this wrong the whole time. So that was a really kind of cool part of the class that I enjoyed. Just touched on this a little bit, but what were some of the impacts or challenges that you've been experiencing since the pandemic? So obviously one of them is not being able to teach in person, but kind of what are some of the pros and cons coming out of that for you?
Yeah, I think I was just really getting momentum in my in-person classes and, getting into local studios in Milwaukee. And right when I felt like momentum was happening with my in-person classes. And then, like I said, as soon as I just took the leap to go on Zoom, now my momentum is happening virtually, and it's so amazing to be on a call and be in a class and connect with people from California and DC, Philly. My other friend is in Toronto, and then Denver too. So it's just nice. It's eye-opening to me to see that I think there could be a need and a want for the virtual classes, and then being able to connect cross-country and anywhere in the world, really. So I think there is definitely a lot of pros that I'm seeing happening during the pandemic that I'm going to take after quarantine, and still I'm definitely going to keep teaching online and, mix it up in person and online teaching. But I think this world we live in, it's like, it's a crazy world. Like you're discussing your commute, and people work long hours. They have long commutes. I used to live in Los Angeles, which is just a rat race of a city.
Yeah.
And I just think about like getting to the yoga class and trying to find a place to park. And then you have to race in to get your spot in the room, and you're in the locker room. I'm like, okay, I've never been to India, but it's like, yoga is supposed to be about finding peace, yet I'm so stressed just to get to yoga. And then I find that the energy at the studio, sometimes everyone is so rushed, and it's like they're on their treadmill of like work and things to do, and they have to get home for their family. And I almost would feel anxiety going to certain classes during certain times, just because it's the rush. So I think I like the idea of online, people doing it from their homes without so much pressure of being in the room, and then taking away the stress of commuting and all of that.
Yeah, I definitely, I think one of the reasons why the virtual classes appeal to me so much is because I'm very self-conscious. Like I used to be a hardcore athlete, played every sport, had personal trainers, was like super in shape, and I'm not that way anymore. So I'm very self-conscious about what I look like and the fact that I'm out of shape. And so kind of doing any type of like physical like exercise in front of other people like gives me hardcore anxiety. So it's kind of like what you were saying, like I'm supposed to be going to this yoga class to be calm and to relax and kind of have those moments. And in reality, I'm sitting there thinking about everyone around me and the fact that I'm breathing wrong or breathing heavy or like whatever. So it's so nice to be able to do it from home, even though I know that like I had my camera on. And I was like, I know people can see me, but like I wasn't worried about it as much as I would have been if I was there in person. It was kind of like you said, like I felt connected to everyone, but also like in my own space in a way. So it was, I don't know, I really kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's like this really nice boundary that actually gets created, and it's like you share as much as you're wanting to share, like if your camera's on or if you're muted or whatnot, but like everyone's still, there is the group energy still, which is really nice. And I think it helps with commitment, because even the other day I was just doing YouTube classes by myself, and I found that I was doing so much less, or like sort of just taking breaks and things, versus like when you're still in that class.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I really enjoyed the class. Some of the other things that I really liked about it that we've kind of already talked about was I really enjoyed that I got to attend it from home. That was probably like not the top thing, but one of the things I really liked, because it is super convenient. And you kind of mentioned this before, but about like kind of accountability. So I've tried to do yoga classes online, just like recordings of them, and wasn't as likely to actually do the class as I was in the Zoom class. Like I felt like I needed to like keep up and try everything, and like I couldn't do everything in the class, and I couldn't do it for like as long as we were supposed to, but I definitely wouldn't have done as much if I were watching a video.
I find the same, like it's the same for me. So any time I'm trying to just do it solo video online, I'm doing far less than either I've been doing Zoom meetups of just working out with friends online, or taking the classes. And the virtual classes, I am much more committed to following through with the entire workout.
That was definitely a pro of doing the virtual class, because it actually like motivated me to do it. And I kind of said this earlier too, like it was really easy to understand what you were saying, and the way you explained the moves made sense. And so I really liked that. Probably one of my favorite parts of the flow, I guess, was the beginning. I really liked, I don't know what they're called, but it was like a push-up with like one leg raised. I loved that. I don't know why.
That's one of the moves from Kundalini yoga. I just stole it from a Kriya, and I was like, this really can work in bar, because you're pumping your arms, and then it gets into the glands of your armpits too, like and lymph nodes, and then it's working the back of your heart too, while you're building those arm muscles. So
just like it made me feel like very powerful, because I was like, I'm doing push-ups with one leg in the air, and I just a badass. So I like really enjoyed it. And like I used to
That's so awesome.
use my arms a lot, like because I did archaeology, so I'm used to like having a lot of like power in my arms, and I definitely don't have as much muscle as I used to. But I was like, holy shit, like I am doing these push-ups like a badass with one leg in the air, and it just was like it was just kind of very empowering, that move. So it was, I think that and the corkscrews were
Oh,
definitely like my two favorite kind of
the deliciousness at the
moments.
end.
Yes. There's nothing I enjoy more than like focusing on certain points in your body and then like releasing them and kind of like thanking them and like breathing out and like, letting them go, and then like just moving up your body and kind of just like letting everything go numb in a way is so enjoyable to me. Like I absolutely, it's definitely one of my favorite poses to do just because of the focus and then like the release of that joint and that muscle. Pretty great. It's pretty great.
Pretty amazing how we spend all day, every day, you know, in these bodies. And then when you take literally like 2 minutes to scan your body like that and connect with all of these parts that you're with all the time, yet we're not connected, you know, and to just connect to every corner of your body for those 2 minutes is a really wonderful thing.
Definitely my favorite. And then another thing I liked is, of course, doing it over Zoom. Kind of like we were saying, be connected, but also be separate. And then also being able to see all of my friends on there. Like that was really great. It was, you know, it felt like we were in a class together. And the fact that you can have people from literally around the world kind of coming together for the singular purpose of having those moments and relaxing and like being there to do yoga is super, super cool. And so it was kind of neat to be a part of kind of that collective, I guess, in a way, if that makes sense. Like it was really neat to just, you're like, I am in this, doing yoga, doing this practice with people from everywhere. Like it's really kind of a neat connecting moment. So that was a really cool part of the class as well.
Yeah, I find that I've been connecting with friends from around the country so much during quarantine, and I'm so thankful for it because it's like we can always connect with people, you know, anytime. But now that we're forced to only be online, now I'm connecting with my friends from all over the country. And I do, like when we're working out together in a shared class, or they take my class or I take their class, I really do. I feel the connection and I feel like we're hanging out. I know it's not the same, but it's also just like bringing me closer to my friends that I don't get to see that often.
I enjoyed that aspect of it. I guess for cons, this is just because, boom. This is because I like to say I have the joints of like an 80-year-old because I have like mad arthritis in all of my joints. I found that like even though the arm stuff was my favorite, I had a hard time with doing like all of the arm stuff at once because like I have really like my wrists are absolute shit. And so it was like putting so much of my weight on my wrists for like so long, like hurt my old lady joints quite a bit. But again, that's my body. So I was like that.
I find that to be the most like common thing that people have, like the reason people don't want to take a class or things like that is the joints for sure. I'm trying to do my best to, you know, get cognizant and aware of the joints, and then need to maybe give more options just to be less joint centric, I guess. I don't know. I'm like,
well, and I was talking to Julie after the fact, and her wrists were a little sore as well. And she said, well, I just went down on my like forearms those and did it that way. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. I totally could have.
Yeah, that's something I'll be I need to cue more options for sure, and be mindful of that. That
was literally it. I was like, my wrist, or just my one wrist, my left one, which is my worst one, was like sore after the fact. But like, I don't know, I really honestly enjoyed the class, and I'm really looking forward to taking some of your other ones. So
I was so pumped to have you guys all on, and I was so excited about how many people were on from the East Coast, and then California, I think you said, in North Carolina. So that was so awesome. And I felt so much positive energy from the class and from all of you. So I'm just super thankful and grateful. And I appreciate the feedback too. And I just look forward to continuing, and hopefully you all will keep taking my classes, and I'll offer more, in the future. My goal is to be a full-time yogi someday. So, but I really do want to offer things for people that have joint pain, and my cousin just got diagnosed with arthritis as well. So I really want to reach people that do have limitations, that, you can still get so much out of certain classes and things like that. So I really want to be sensitive to that and do whatever I can to help people of all types of things going on in our lives and in our bodies.
So this is the first yoga class I've taken in a while. Again, I loved it. So I really enjoyed it.
Makes me so happy.
Do you have plans to kind of like try other or bring in other types of yoga practice in the future? Something I was thinking of the other day is I have a lot of younger nieces, and with schools closed and they have to kind of do like their own PE at home. And I was like, oh, like a virtual like yoga session for kids would be super, super cool, because that could be their like PE for school that day or something like that. And so I was kind of wondering if you had plans for other kind of like virtual classes in the future besides the ones that you already do.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm quarantining with my nephew. He's 5, so we did a Pokemon yoga together. And it was actually really cute. It was just on YouTube, so we did it together.
Like, can I get in on Pokemon?
Yeah, the teacher for that, she does a bunch of them. The Pokemon one was really good, and he got super into it. They had to like kill Pikachu or some, I don't even know how it goes. He knew everything that was happening. So we'll see. I would definitely love to do kids yoga eventually, and I just want to expand more. I am teaching Kundalini yoga just once a week. It's a 30-minute class, so it's a shorter commitment, but I want to do more breath work classes, more meditation, things like that. And then I also want to expand into doing like creativity workshops and things like that. So all things in the works for sure.
Very cool. Creativity workshops sound awesome. Something else I would be interested in.
Yeah, I think it's for sure a direction I want to go in. So I'm just working on developing what I want to do and everything like that, combining some yoga, movement, breath work, and then other activities to get your creativity flowing, your positive thinking, expansive thoughts, and all
Very
that
cool
stuff.
I'd like to thank you again so very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And also for doing what you do and having these virtual yoga classes, which I didn't mention. I think you're doing most of them for free right now, like donation.
Yeah, doing everything for free. Donations are accepted, but not necessary.
So absolutely amazing. Where can people find you on social media? Do you have a website? Just, if they're interested in taking one of your classes.
Yeah, I promote a lot of my stuff on Facebook. So my first name is Carly, Carly, and then last name Stoj. Stoj, I say rhymes with joy. That's my personal Facebook, and then my business Facebook is Love Carly Stoj. I'm on Instagram as Love Carly Stoj. And then my website is lovecarlystoj.com. I find that I do the most updating on things through Facebook. My website is up and running, but definitely am putting some more work into it. But Facebook just seems to be an easy way to share events and happenings and things like that.
And I'll be sure to, I will include all of Carly's information in the episode description. So you can definitely find her Facebook, Instagram, and website links to all of those down below. Do you have any upcoming events that you'd like to share? Any sessions coming up soon?
So as of right now, I'm teaching Wednesday nights. Central time is 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do the virtual yoga bar fusion, which is what you took. Thursdays, I teach a 30-minute Kundalini. It's at 12 Central Standard Time. And then Saturdays at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, I teach the Kundalini bar infusion also. I'm willing to work with people, small groups, one-on-one, definitely people who are interested in meditation and breath work and things like that, and just mindful movement. The bar, as you know, is a really killer low impact workout though. So yeah, just anything that people are interested in those, that sphere, I'm all in to connect online or in person. I do travel a good amount, but I'm based in Milwaukee.
Anyone who's interested in linking up with Carly or taking one of her classes, again, I'll include all that information in the episode description. I highly recommend everyone check her out. Try one of the classes. Again, they're free, so you can give it a try from the comfort of your home. And then if you enjoy them, you can come back for more. So my overall final thoughts on the virtual yoga bar class is 10 out of 10. I would highly recommend. I'm honestly a huge fan of having this option of doing virtual classes. It's just amazing. So with that, I want to say thank you again, Carly, for joining me. I am very much looking forward to your other classes.
Look forward to seeing you on all of them, Allie, and anyone else who wants to join. I am looking forward to teaching in the future. And just thank you, Allie, so much. It was so fun to connect. My new virtual friend. It'll be wonderful when we meet in person one day. That'll be really awesome.
No, this has been great.
Thank you so much. It's been really inspiring and really fun experience to do this with you.
Great.
There you have it. Thanks, as always, for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to tune in for the next one. And if you are looking for some entertainment or you're bored, I highly recommend going back and listening to some of our previous episodes. You can follow the Fun with Friends podcast on Instagram at Fun with Friends Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at FunFriendsPod1. We are also on Facebook. You can listen to the podcast on Anchor FM, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. As always, please like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell your friends about the podcast and get the word out there about it. And as always, my friends, go out there, try something new, and have some fucking fun. Bye!